for, with us for about 6 months now, past 6 months. And he's originally from Kenya and he's a Nairobi boy. So you probably know everyone here. Most of us are from Kenya or Tanzania, a few from India. So we can welcome Kanchanabja Prabhu with 3 Haribols, please. So, like tradition in ISKCON is 3 Haribols, so we can all raise our hands and say Haribol, Haribol, Haribol.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Okay, thank you very much. I just need to. Actually, maybe it's a sign. I did put some notes on my phone, and I think I left my notes in my jacket pocket. But maybe that's a sign. Krishna doesn't want me to look at any notes. So, thank you very much, Prabhuji, for your invitation, and thank you, Kirtika Mataji, Tushar Prabhu, for opening up your homes for us to gather today to. For a few reasons, actually. One is that there's a regular Sangha every month that we're having at Anandavardhana Prabhu's house and Vishakha Mataji's house. So it's nice that the Sangha members are getting together on a monthly basis. And also to honor the life of Kirtika Mataji, his mother-in-law and father-in-law, Tushar Prabhu's parents, who left their body, it's been about a month now? About 1 month ago. Very interesting, isn't it, somehow, that your mother-in-law left and then just 2 weeks later, was it? Two weeks, 2.5 weeks later, your father-in-law also left this world. Sometimes bonds are so strong, bonds are so tight that when one leaves, the other one must follow very soon. And did you say, Mataji, that it was your father-in-law's birthday? Today? Yes. So today would have been, how old? It would have been 91. 91. Wow. Okay. So a good life. And we're here to, I guess we can say, honor the lives of these 2 wonderful personalities who gave so much. Kirtika Mataji is doing so much for the Sangha in Eldoret. And we feel very blessed that today is also a very auspicious day, because it's Gita Jayanti. I was actually thinking, what should we, on the way here, so I wrote some notes when I parked my car, thinking, what shall we write? Should we do our regular Sangha, or shall we speak on Gita Jayanti? So maybe we'll just speak on Gita Jayanti a little bit, because it's such an auspicious day. The Bhagavad Gita was spoken roughly 5,000 years ago, and today's the Advent, the birthday of the conversation that took place on the battlefield of Kurukshetra all those years ago, over 5,000 years ago. So before we start, we'll just chant a little prayer. Those of us that know the words can chant along, and if you don't know the words, that's okay. Even if you close your eyes or you just hear the transcendental sound vibration, this will be very purifying to the atmosphere, purify our hearts, and at the same time bring us together through the sound of the transcendental names of the Lord. Om Jayanti Mirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Kadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. No, I can't sing. No, I don't know how to do that. No. I can't do that. You can sing. No. Yeah,
Baladev Subhadramani ki Jai. Shri Gauranitai ki Jai. Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. All grace to the devotees.
Different reinforcement. Different ones.
Hare Krishna. So, as we were saying, the Bhagavad Gita was spoken 5,000, roughly 5,000, a bit more than 5,000 years ago. Today is the anniversary of that most sacred conversation, the conversation that is still very much relevant today. Sometimes conversation gets old. Judi vatche. We hear that. But this conversation never gets old. And the reason this conversation never gets old is because the wisdom that was spoken was timeless. It's timeless. It has no boundary of time. In the daily world we live in, every information that we are receiving, a lot of the information we're receiving is bound by time. So for example, when you read the newspaper, so even actually if I think about it, when I come home from work, the morning metro is just not useful anymore because by then the Evening Standard has come. And you can see people want the Evening Standard newspaper because the news in the morning is now old, it's boring, it's changed. It was bound by time. And by the time it gets to evening, there's new stuff going on. And people want to know the latest information. The Bhagavad Gita is 5,000 years old and it's still the latest information. It's still the latest information. Why? Because the Bhagavad Gita speaks about the day-to-day life that we live here. The first chapter of the Gita is Arjuna Vishada Yoga. The yoga of Arjun's lamentation. He was lamenting. He was in deep shock. When we are experiencing this world, Krishna is explaining in the 8th chapter later on that this world has got two symptomatic features. One is dukkhalayam, it is full of misery, and one is ashashvatam, that everything here is temporary. And I'm sure we've experienced dukkhalayam. I'm sure we've all experienced some sort of suffering at some point, maybe more than once in our life. And ashashvatam, we have an experience that everything here is not permanent. Everything is temporary. Our name can be temporary. The name can change. Our age is always changing. Our relationships are changing. Our job is changing. Our career is changing. Our body is changing. Everything is changing. It's temporary. So what we have today may not be here tomorrow. Because what we have today, because it's a feature of this world, it is ashashvatam. It is non-permanent. It's a feature of the world. So sometimes we're thinking, how can I live a life where I have no problems? That's not possible because it's part of being here. What's actually more relevant is how can I live here amongst my problems and still be peaceful? They say out of all the oceans, the Pacific Ocean is the most steady ocean. Does anyone know why? Any idea? Deep. Yes, it's the most deep ocean. So the deeper we are in our spiritual practice, the deeper we are with our connection to the permanent, to the spiritual, then actually we can become more peaceful. So becoming peaceful isn't to run away from the problem or to try and ensure there are no problems. The way to actually become peaceful is to become deep into our inner world. There's so much going on in our outer world. There's so much just going on. People, things, jobs, commitments. But actually what's going on in our inner world is what's really going to help us navigate ourselves in our day-to-day life. So Arjun is going through an existential crisis. That's what we can call it, an existential crisis. He came into a crisis of what is my dharam? What is my dharma? What am I meant to do here? I have this duty of protecting Nandana. He is a descendant of the Kuru dynasty, and the people who he has to fight, the people who he has to have a war against, are all his relatives, his grandfather, his uncles, his cousins, and he's thinking, how can I do this? How can I do this? So he begins to have a bit of a crisis, a bit of a difficulty. And the difficulty becomes... Everything's okay? So the difficulty then becomes harder to navigate when we have a dilemma. So what do we do generally when we have a dilemma? What do we do? If you have a dilemma, Arjun had a dilemma. I have to fight, but I don't want to fight because the people I have to fight against are very close to me. And I'll end up having to kill them or they're going to kill me. That's quite a big dilemma. Our dilemma may not be that big, but we have dilemmas. We have times when we have to make very acute decisions, difficult decisions. So what do we normally do when we have to make a decision that's very difficult? Ask for help. Phone a friend. Yes, phone a friend. So luckily, the person Arjun asked for help was Krishna. Not a bad person to have it right at your disposal. Just there, Krishna was there, and he got to ask Krishna, "What should I do? What shall I do? I take you as my shishya. I take you as my teacher. Now tell me what to do." Why? Because samuda chetaha. I've become confused. I've become bewildered by confusion, and because of this confusion, please just tell me what is the right thing for me to do right now, because I just don't know. So for us, when we are in a difficult situation, when we have a dilemma, yes, ask for help. But when we ask for help, we need to know that we're asking the right person at the right time for the right help. Because if we don't ask the right person, if we don't ask at the right time, and if we don't ask for the right help, then what we may receive may be counterproductive to the situation we are in. Arjun asked the right person, Krishna, at the right time, which was when he needed it most, when he was desperate, and the right help. And what do we mean by the right help? He didn't just ask for the answer that he wanted. Sometimes when we are asking for help, sometimes when we want an answer, we might go to someone that will just tell us the answer that we want them to tell us. And so we choose the person accordingly. You know, sometimes our mind is quite devious. Arjun admits this to Krishna. Chanchalam himana Krishna. You know, this mind is very obstinate, very stubborn. It's vayor iva sudushkram. It's even harder to control than the wind. The mind is very, very devious. And because the mind is so devious, we can sometimes just think, okay, I need to go to the temple, and I've got a service to do. Maybe we have a service. So who should I ask? And I don't really feel like going. So who should I ask? Maybe I'll talk to a relative who's not really into the temple and ask whether I should go to the temple. You know, and that way we'll get the answer we want. Or it could be the other way around. That we want to go to the temple. So what do? We should, and this is the favorable way, that actually you want to do something good. So ask the right person for the right help, who's going to give you the right advice. Now, the right person should be someone, Dimple Mataji said, ask for help. Who is that right person? Well, someone who knows us, someone who loves us, and someone who who has our best wishes at heart. You know, someone who really cares about our fortune, our happiness. Someone who is spiritually experienced, someone who is spiritually mature. And if it's a decision about what job to take, of course, someone who may be experienced in that field. You know, if you've got a dilemma, I've got 2 job offers, and if I've got 2 job offers, which job offer should I take? Then and let's say you are an ophthalmic doctor, like Kirtika. So if we oh, you're also doing this, okay. Your daughter, yes, you're telling me, yes, okay, nice to meet you. So if we have 2 different job offers, naturally what we will do is we will speak to someone who is experienced in that field or experienced in that profession. At the same time, maybe speak to someone who knows us, who loves us, who cares about our well-being. So Krishna was that person for Arjun. He loved Arjun. It was the right time. It was the right place. It was the right kind of advice. He didn't just give advice to Arjun that was just going to help him. It was the advice to Arjun that was good for Arjun. It wasn't just good for Krishna. It was good for Arjun. Sometimes we might ask someone for help and they may give us an answer because it's good for them. It's good for them. But are they going to give us the advice that's really good for us? So we have to use our intelligence. Krishna has given us intelligence, and with that intelligence, if we are sincere in who we reach out to, Krishna reciprocates with our sincerity. The thing about Krishna is he is very much in knowledge of our intention. He knows our intention. He knows what's going to happen in the past. He knows what's going to happen in the future. He knows our intention, and he reciprocates not with what we do, not specifically with what we do. It's with the intention that we do something. So we can't hide ourselves from God. We can hide ourselves to the whole world. You know, like in your mind, someone may be approaching you you're at a wedding and you see this person, you're like, oh God, I hope I don't have to say hello to them. Oh my God, you try and avoid, oh God. And then they come up to you, you know, and this happens. But and we can hide it very well. We can hide it very well sometimes. Sometimes it's so obvious, right? But sometimes, so we can hide that very well, but we can't hide our intention from Krishna. He knows what's going on in the heart. So the work we have to do isn't how we are looking in society. It's not about how things are appearing to others. It's actually the inner work as to with how much sincerity am I dealing with this situation? With how much sincerity am I approaching the scenario I'm in, the people I'm around, the people that I love. And if we are sincere, then the reciprocation from Krishna is reflective of that sincerity. So the work starts with us. The work starts with us. So Arjun, he was very sincere. It wasn't that, and he says to Krishna, Govinda, I will not fight. He puts down his Gandiva bow in the first chapter. He puts it down and says, I will not fight. Totally bewildered. And he's approaching Krishna in this bewilderment. What do I do? What do I do? Sometimes we may be in such a difficult situation that our mind might be totally perplexed, totally anxious, and we might just have to put on a brave face. That might be the situation. When Ram was leaving for the forest, he was in Ayodhya, and he was leaving for the forest, Ram was heartbroken. He didn't want to leave his dad, he didn't want to leave his family, but at the same time, he put on a very brave face because he didn't want to cause his father any more anxiety than his father was in already. King Dashrath was already so sad that KK has ordered for Ram to be banished to the forest for 14 years. He was already so troubled by this. So Ram didn't want to make it worse. So he put on a brave face. He put on a brave, but don't worry, father, I will go. Mother KK, don't worry. Why are you struggling to ask me to just go? You just want me to go to the forest for 14 years. I thought you thought of me as your own son. He said to Mother KK, I thought you thought of me as your own son. And when I heard this, I thought, good, Ram's going to tell her. How could you do this to me? Because that's what I would. But what did Ram say? He said, why did you waste your 2 boons asking my father? You could have just asked me yourself and I would have gone to the forest for 14 years. What's the big deal? Bharat can be the king. What's the big deal? So Ram was very, Ram was very gracious in the situation, and at the same time with his father, he didn't say to his father that actually, I'm also upset. I don't want to leave you. He didn't say that. He put on a brave face. So sometimes the situation may need that. When Vasudev and Devki got married, and Kamsa heard that voice, that the 8th child of this, of your sister's, the 8th child of your sister Devaki is going to kill you. So Kamsa was ready. He just takes his sword and he's about to kill Devaki. And Vasudev's like, whoa, hold on a second. And it's described, Vasudeva in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Vasudeva Mahabhaga. He's a great personality. And this great personality became very calm and unagitated. And Uvacha Pranishayate, he started to speak to Kamsa in a very pacifying way. He started to calm him down. And then it's described that Manasya Duyamanena, that his mind was actually full of sorrow. His mind was full of anxiety. Manasya Duyamanena. And then it says, Pan Vihasan idam abravit. But he smiled. He smiled and started to talk to Kamsa. So he smiled. Why did he smile? Even though he was so agitated, even though he was so much in sorrow, so much anxiety that he's going to kill his newly wedded wife, he smiled because he was trying to pacify the situation. He's trying to calm the situation down. And he's saying to Kamsa, don't worry, Sarvan Putran Pashiyate, that I will give you the children. I will give you these children. And then this bhayam, uttitam, this will get rid of all this fear that has arisen within you because of the voice that you've heard. The bhayam, the fear will go away because I'll give you all the children. All the children that are born, I will give them to you. So he pacified Kamsa. How did he pacify Kamsa? He smiled and he spoke in a pacifying way. He spoke very calmly. And he said to Kamsa, why do you want to get yourself in more difficulty? Everyone will deride you that you killed a woman. You killed a newlywed. You killed your own sister. That's going to cause you so much more damage. Don't worry. I'll give you all the children. Bas, relax. Calm down. So sometimes a difficult situation may require us to go deep into our inner world. If we don't have an inner world, then what will happen? We just start panicking. Whatever situation comes up, we panic. I remember when I went, last year we were going on a flight, and my mom and dad, my sister, my wife, my kids, they all left. We were going for a family holiday to celebrate my dad's 70th birthday. And they left on the Sunday, and I was going to leave on the Tuesday because I still had work. So I was going to leave on the Tuesday night. And I got to the airport, and they said to me, where's your COVID test? So I gave them my COVID test, and what had happened, no fault of mine actually, the certificate people had put the wrong date. They put the date the day before, and it was actually meant to be on the actual day that the test was taken. And then therefore between the dates that they put on the certificate, which was the wrong date, and the time of the flight had been too many hours since the test, which means that the test was no longer valid. But I said to them, look, it says this date, but look underneath, it doesn't make sense that the certificate's issued the day before the actual test. So the date of the test was the right date, but the date of the certificate was the day before. But I said to them, how is that possible they can give me a certificate the day before? It's obviously a mistake, because the date of the test is always, the test is going to be before the certificate can be issued. And they're like, yeah, but sorry, you can't get on the plane. And I realized that day I have no inner world. Because nothing, how can you do this? My wife's there, my 2 children, they're waiting for me, you gotta let me on this flight, you know, this is not right. And I was just like, no inner world, panic. And they're like, no, you can't get on the plane. You just can't get on the plane. I'm like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? Anyway, we managed to get through to the COVID test people, and they managed to send, just in time, managed to send another certificate, and I showed it to them on my phone, and literally I was the last person on that flight. But luckily, we got on the plane. But I realized that where's my inner world? You know, why couldn't I just stay calm? Why can't I just, like, you know, Vihasan idam abravit, just smile, talk passively, just have a conversation. There was no conversation. Like, you can't do this to me. You know, people are watching me, and I'm like, you're just oblivious. So this happens when we're not deep inside. What happens? All the outer stuff starts coming out. And what happens? We only know how deep our inner world is when we're tested. You know, when we're tested, and the tests come. Generally, in the material world, the tests keep coming. The problems keep coming and the tests keep coming. It's not, the material world's not shy to give us a test, to give us a problem. You know, it's very good like that. Very, very, very loving. Here's another test. Here's another problem. Very open. And sometimes when we need to wake up, when we really need to wake up, what happens? The tests, the shocks come with a lot more intensity, less time between each one, and therefore it starts to feel a bit overwhelming, a bit too much. So at that time, in those times, Krishna is trying to wake us up. Krishna is trying to give us enough intensity for us to take the next step in our spiritual journey, to take the next step in deepening our connection with him. So this is what happened to Arjun. He's in this dilemma, and he's saying, how can I kill my relatives? You know, it's quite a decent question to ask, isn't it? Like, you want me to, that's my grandfather over there, you want me to kill him? That doesn't sound like a nice thing to do. And so Krishna says to him, yeah, you know, that this body, the hinashminyata, the hair, komaram, jovanam, this material body, it goes through boyhood, to youth, to old age, but actually don't make such a big deal out of it. Don't make such a big deal out of it, because similarly, just as the body is changing, at the time of death, the soul, the person, takes another body. Just a sober person is not bewildered by such a change. It's not. Don't be so stressed out about death. Don't be so stressed out about death. He's saying to Arjun, because death, and he explains to Krishna he explains to Arjun that whenever someone is born, death is going to happen. And whenever there's a death, birth is going to take place again. Natam sochitam arhasi. Don't become so bewildered by this. Just relax. Just relax about that. That with birth comes death, with death comes birth. And the reason we get very shocked by death is because we miss the person. And that's very normal, very natural. We miss the person, we miss the people that we have lost. So in that sense, there's what we can call a natural feeling of separation. A natural feeling of longing, natural feeling of wanting to have that company again. So what can we do? We know that it's going to happen. We know that death is round the corner for everyone in one sense. So what can we do? The thing is, what we can do, one thing that's really interesting for us to do when it comes to the concept of death is, are we making the most out of the time we have with the people that we are around right now? Are we making the most of that time? Because, you know, we can cry when someone passes away, naturally, because we're not going to see them again. But while we are seeing them, are we developing a deep relationship with them? Are we developing a connection with them? Are we developing something real with them? Can we talk to that person heart to heart? You know, and when we can have conversations, and actually how do we connect with someone? By having deep and meaningful conversation. And when we can have a deep and meaningful conversation, when we can be open with others, then what can happen naturally? We're making the most of our time with others while they are here. And then what happens when the inevitable happens? When time elapses and the time has come for someone to leave this world and leave their body. If we've had deep, meaningful connection, then when that person passes away, then there could be no regret. Because what happened is, while they were here, we had a nice relationship. We had a deep connection. We made the most of our time together. The regret comes when someone leaves their body and we begin to think, I wish I did this. I wish I did that. We could have gone on holiday. We could have gone for a walk more often. We could have spent time talking together more often. That is when we start to regret. Now, if this has happened, it doesn't mean that we need to regret more. It just means that we can understand that this is what will help us going forward. What may have happened has happened. I can give you one example. My auntie, my kaki, she passed away in 2013, so 10 years ago. She passed away. She had cancer. She was only 52 when she passed away. So she was 40. 2001. Yeah, 2001. She was 40 years old. She got diagnosed with cancer. So when she got diagnosed with cancer, it was actually what really started my search for answers, because I thought, oh my God, she's 40 years old. And I remember at the time, my mum and dad were in Kenya, and I was here. It was summer holidays from university, and I was here. I was working. I had some summer job, and I just wanted a free house without my mum and dad. So they went to Kenya. I was at home, and then my uncle said, "Look, everyone's meeting for dinner." So we went to one of my uncle's house, and they said, "Okay, Smita Kaki has cancer." Whoa. And it didn't quite, I was thinking, it didn't quite make sense, because she's 40, which is young. She had at that time, her kids were 9 and 7, so very, very young. And then I went home, and I was on my own, and I was just like, oh my God, I just cannot cope with this information. I just cannot cope with this diagnosis. I'm just like, what's going to happen to the kids? It just felt too overwhelming for me. And that's when I started my search. That's when I started going to the temple. And 12 years later, so she survived 12 years. And then in 2013, she finally passed away. And I remember towards the end of her life, when the body was shutting down, and I remember thinking to myself, I really want to have a conversation with her. Like, what are her desires? What does she want for her kids? Is there anything she wants me to do? How is she feeling? She knew. And I remember her saying to me a few months before she passed away, she said, I'm in palliative care. And she kept mentioning that she's in palliative care. And what I felt she was doing was she was inviting me to converse with her about what it means to be in palliative care, that this is the end of life care, end of life treatment. But my family had said to me, as in my uncle, her husband, and my parents and other family members said to me, don't talk about death with her, because let her remain positive. So I was then in a bit of a dilemma that, if I go against my family, this, that. So I never had the conversation. I never had the conversation, and then the months went by, and then her body just got to a state where, when I thought even, shall I have the conversation, she wasn't in a fit state to have the conversation, to have any sort of conversation, we could say. And when she passed away, that regret, I remember on her 10-year death anniversary, which was in June, I remember writing that day, and I was writing and I was remembering her, and I was thinking, this is my biggest regret. My biggest regret was I could have talked to you. And it felt like she was inviting me for a conversation by mentioning palliative care, but I didn't engage in the conversation because I was worried about what my family would say. Like, why are you being so negative? That was what I was being told. Don't be so negative. But for me, I was trying to be realistic. But for what others were saying to me is I'm being negative. But to me, it's like, look, she's not gonna, and anyway. So I kind of just stayed quiet. But then what happens is, as the years go by, the regret stays. And the regret stays because I could have done something. So then what we can do is then, we know that this has happened. So from now, what can I do? What can I do to mend, in one sense, or to heal from that regret? And one way to heal from that regret is whenever there's an opportunity in that way again, don't be scared to have the conversation, maybe be more open about it. And that's what I thought would be useful for me, is to be able to engage in that. So when we are with people, when we are with others, are we making the most of our time with them? Are we deepening our relationship with them? If we get together with someone and have a gossip about someone else, naturally what will happen is we might have fun for a little while, but we don't really deepen our connection with that other person. We don't really deepen our connection, but we can deepen our connection by Rupa Goswami. So one of the great saints from about 500 years ago, he explains that a really nice way to have a deep connection. It's kind of like doing three things between two people. So one thing is you can offer gift. So one thing is one person offers a gift, the other person accepts a gift. So offering a gift is a really nice act of friendship. Accepting a gift is also a very nice act of friendship. It doesn't have to be just friendship, family, a nice act of connection between two people. Offering a gift and accepting a gift. Now, accepting a gift is also a nice thing to do. So someone offers us a gift, we say, nah, sometimes we try and be polite and say, I don't want it, but actually it's more polite to accept it with grace. It's very nice, because when someone's giving you something, imagine when you're giving someone something and they say, nah, not jotu, don't need it, you don't have to give that. You're feeling a bit bad because you're giving something with love. So when you're giving something with love, the other side of it is to accept with love. That's a connection. The other thing that Rupa Goswami explains is one can cook for someone with love, and the other person can accept that cooking with love. Now imagine, maybe this has happened. I don't think we need to imagine. I'm sure this has happened to us at least once. Someone comes to our house, we prepare a nice meal, and then they say, na, khaili duch, bhuk nat lagi. You're like, we spent the whole day cooking, And they're like, na, bhuk nat lagi. Pachi bare javanus, ani gare javanus, pachi. Khali chai pi lesu, And then we feel so bad because we spent time cooking for them and they don't accept. So again, it's two ways. One is to offer the prasadam, offer the food, and the other side is to accept it with love. Accept it. And the third thing that Rupa Goswami explains is one can reveal one's mind in confidence. Reveal one mind. So when you get together with someone we're close to, can we reveal what's in the mind? And can the other person hear it confidentially? What does confidentially mean? What does it mean to hear confidentially? We don't tell other people. Don't tell other people, yes. We don't tell others. So it's not like, oh my God, I got some juicy, oh my God, they're telling me more, yeah, tell me more. And then as soon as they're gone, WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, you know, it's like, so we hear confidentially. And again, that's a deep act of connection. So these three things, whichever side of it we're on, whether we're the one giving or the one receiving, they are acts of love. They are acts of connection. And this is how we can make the most of our time together with others in this world. It's given in the scriptures. It's given in the Shastra. This is how to make the most of our time with others. Give a gift, accept a gift. Cook for someone, accept that offering. And reveal your mind, what's in the mind, in the heart, reveal the troubles in the heart, and the other person, hear it confidentially. Hear it confidentially. Krishna heard from Arjun when Arjun said to Krishna, this mind is such a wreck, it's giving me havoc, it's giving me problem. Krishna says to Arjun, Asham Shaya Mahabho, yes, you are right, Arjun. The mind is definitely very difficult to control. Muni Duni Griyam Chalam. This mind is very difficult to control. He says to Arjun, yes, I agree with you. He hears him out. And then after hearing him out, after understanding the plight, the difficulty Arjun is having, he then says to Arjun some advice. Maybe Arjun, you can have better mind control if you do a suitable practice and you become detached. You become detached from the external world. They become detached, not the actual external world. We can say that what you think the external world is saying to you, because sometimes we make up stuff in our head that's not really there, isn't it? Like we translate situations in a different language to what they're really being told in. You know, someone could be saying to you, why don't you get some rest, you look tired, and they're actually genuinely concerned that you're tired, but you translated that to, they don't want to talk to me, they want me to go away. You know, so that's what we've done in our head, and that's the way we translated it. And Krishna is saying to Arjun, Vairagena, just be detached from all of that. Be detached from all of that. See things as they really are. See things as they really, really are. Vairagena Tigriyate. So when we are hearing someone, we all know about how to give a gift. I think giving a gift and receiving a gift is nice and straightforward. Offering food to someone. If we cook for someone and offer it to Krishna, then it becomes prasadam. So when we offer it to Krishna, it doesn't have to be something elaborate. We can just have a picture of Krishna, put the food on a separate plate, just chant the Hare Krishna mantra 3 times, and just say, my dear Lord Krishna, please accept this offering. And just wait 5 or 10 minutes, and then what happens, that food becomes prasadam. That food becomes prasadam. And if we offer food with love and devotion to Krishna and then offer it to someone else, then that becomes an act of love. So those two things are quite nice and straightforward. Giving a gift and cooking for someone and accepting it. When we are hearing someone, this is where it gets a bit more intricate. We can emulate what Arjun did. What Krishna did. What Krishna did was, he heard Arjun. He even made sure he understood what Arjun was saying. So if someone says something to you, sometimes we can just repeat it back. Oh yes, the mind is very difficult to control. Because when you repeat something back to someone, you're showing them that you understand. It's called active listening, actually. It's called active listening. So active listening shows someone that we are hearing them. We are listening to them. And because we are actively listening, we're hearing them with attention. Because we're hearing that person with attention, then that person feels safe. That person feels safe in your company. And then when we give advice to that person, when we want to give them some advice, or we want to, because they're asking for some advice, if we give that advice with their best wishes at heart, what's best for them. Krishna describes himself in the 5th chapter. He says to Arjun, I am Suridam Sarvabhutanam. I am the well-wishing friend of all. Well-wishing friend. So we can emulate that by when we are giving time to someone else by being their well-wishing friend. Not what's good for me, what is good for them. And even if it's what's good for them, may not necessarily help my cause at all. But when we are someone's friend, it's all about them. And when we live a life for the benefit of others, Krishna says in the 4th chapter, I will reciprocate with you internally. So as we purify our intention, as our intention becomes more and more holistic, as our intention becomes more and more clean, Krishna reciprocates with that intention. Because remember, he knows what's going on inside. Others know what's going on outside. But he knows what's going on internally. So if we work on the internal, Krishna reciprocates with that. And what does he do when he reciprocates? We begin to feel inner satisfaction, inner contentment. And when we have inner contentment, then what happens? We want to be more and more giving because we know we're getting that satisfaction internally. Sometimes it's described, so I was at my sister's 40th in November, so this couple of months, 1.5 months ago, is my sister's 40th, and I remember one of her relatives was started to talk to me about spiritual life, and he said, but don't you just want to enjoy yourself? Why don't you just enjoy a little bit? You know, I'm like, I am, but just in a different way. And the thing is, and I remember thinking that what's happening is that when we're not enjoying in a gross way, when I mean a gross way, it's not very obvious. You know, like if someone goes to the pub and gets drunk, it's very obvious they're happy. Yeah, mate, yeah. You know, it's very obvious. It's loud and it's obvious. So, and that person's having a good time. We can't deny they're having a good time. They look happy. They're having a good time. That's fair enough. It's understandable. But when someone is spiritually having a good time, they may not be doing that. They may not be going, hey! But internally, they're feeling very satisfied, very peaceful, very content. And it's kind of described like someone who's eating healthily. When someone's eating healthily, they're eating nice salads and nice salad dress. They're eating very nice food, but they're having a subtle enjoyment compared to someone who's eating pizza, chips, paneer. Because pizza, chips, paneer, that's all the beautiful, everyone loves pizza, chips, paneer, burgers, all that kind of stuff. We just eat it and we're enjoying it, we're relishing it. That's like if you like your gross taste buds, they're really relishing it. But when someone's enjoying a healthy salad and they're relishing that salad, what's happening? Why are they relishing the salad? Because they're feeling healthy, they're feeling rejuvenating, they're feeling with strength, they're feeling strong. So this is what we call subtle. It's subtle. The enjoyment of that salad is subtle. And someone who's always eating paneer, pizza, chips, burgers, they don't quite get it. They don't quite understand. I remember when we were living in the ashram, many years, around 15 years ago, I remember we had a meeting, and the meeting was about prasadam, the food that we're eating. So I get very involved with this kind of stuff. And I remember saying that we need to have more pizza, we need to have more chips, more burgers, more paneer. I was talking about all these nice foods that I was thinking that we need to implement this more. And I remember one devotee, an older devotee, was saying we need to have more salad, more vegetables, and I was just like, what is he saying? Why is he trying to ruin my life? I'm gonna have to go to my mummy. Why does he want food like this? And then as the years go by and I've got older, I'm like, actually, yeah, he was talking some sense. Because how much can you sustain yourself on fatty foods or unhealthy foods? And we can sustain ourselves better with healthy food. So naturally, the enjoyment is subtle when we're eating food that is healthy. So similarly, spiritual health, spiritual life is a subtle happiness. It's a subtle happiness that, so when my sister's relative said to me, why don't you just go and enjoy yourself? Why don't you just have a good time? And I'm telling him, I am having a good time. He can't understand it because it's just like me when I was just wanting the pizza and the paneer, and I couldn't understand the happiness of the salad, because to me, I'm just seeing happiness as what's going to be good for my tongue. But the person eating salad isn't just thinking about their tongue, they're also thinking about the rest of their body. So similarly, someone who's practicing spiritual life isn't just thinking about the outer world enjoyment, they're thinking about the inner world enjoyment, the inner world happiness. And Krishna says to Arjuna in the 9th chapter, Susukam kartam avyaham, that this process is very joyfully performed. Pratyaksha vagamam dharmyam, that actually this science is a deep experience. Pratyaksha vagamam, it's an experience. Spiritual life is an experience. We can't explain it to someone else as to what you're going to feel, because everyone's experience is different according to their own connection and relationship with Krishna. It's different, but everyone has that connection that will satisfy them in a different way. But that's what makes it beautiful, because if it was all the same, it would be boring. So this world is full of variegatedness, it's full of variety, it's full of difference, because that's what makes it interesting. That's what makes it exciting. If it's not different, then it's just like a formula book. You know, okay, I'll do this, I'll feel this. I'll do this, I'll get this. But it's not like that. A relationship is always full of variety. We don't know what's coming next. We don't know. I have 2 young children, so naturally every day is just different, you know. And sometimes I'm just thinking, okay, if I give her breakfast at this time, yesterday she did her homework straight after, so I'll give her the same breakfast at the same time, and then hopefully she'll just do her homework at the same. And the next day it's all wild, it's all breaking loose, it's all mad. You know, and I'm thinking, okay, it's not quite working the same. Why? Because the relationship is different. You know, the days are different, and it's a relationship. It connects in a different way. But there's still some happiness because it brings us to our toes. So a relationship with the Lord brings us to our toes. Arjun gets to the point where he just doesn't want to fight. Vasudev's at the point where he's about to lose his wife, and he Vyasan ibn Abravit, he manages to speak in a smiling, pacifying way, just to say to Kamsa, don't kill your sister. It won't be good for you. It won't be good for us. I'll give you the children. Don't worry. I'll pass as soon as Putran Sarvam, as soon as all these children are born, Paishyate, I'll give them to you. I'll give them to you. And then this bhayam uttitam, this fear that has arisen in you, you could dispel it. You don't have to be so fearful because of this fear that we have. So similarly, we don't need to live in fear. We have so much fear. The reason we live in so much fear is because we fear death. We fear death so much. But Krishna, we can see, he's explaining to Arjuna that death is it's like a stepping stone. It's a stepping stone. We are on a multi-life journey. This is one of the chapters in our book. We see it as the only chapter. But this is one of many chapters. One of many chapters. And because it's one of many chapters, then what can happen is when the time comes for us or for someone else, we can understand, okay, now is the time for me to let go of this chapter and I'll go to the next chapter. Because that's what's happening. That's ultimately what it is. And if we have deepened that inner world, if we've deepened that inner connection, then what happens? We'll be able to take that step very gracefully. We can accept that step. For us or for others who may be leaving the world before us, we'll be able to accept it. But the main thing is, while people are with us, make the most of that time by doing those 3 things that we were discussing. If we make the most of that time together, then we don't have any regrets. Because life, when we have a lot of regret, that's very painful. You know, regret is more painful than anything else. If we fail in something, that's okay, because at least we tried. But when you don't try, when we have some regret, then that takes a lot longer. That takes a lot longer to heal. So how to live a life with no regrets? The way to live a life with no regrets is ultimately to ourselves also overcome this bhayam, overcome this fear. What are we so worried about? If we have a dream, why are we so scared to chase it? Why are we so scared to chase it? If we have a dream of doing something significant to contribute to society, to contribute to the world, if we want to do something, let's do it. Let's do it, because the risks we take to do something glorious, if we are successful, great. If we're not successful, at least we'll never regret that we didn't try. So Arjun, he's at the battlefield, and then ultimately Krishna says to him, Utishta Tishta Bharata, get up and fight. Because your duty right now is to overcome this attachment that you have. Arjun wanted to run, but Krishna says you cannot run. At the end he says do what you want. He does say do what you want, because he wants to say and that is the message of the Bhagavad Gita. Here's the knowledge, and now do what you wish to do. But what happened when ultimately he says to Arjun, do what you wish to do, and then after he says do what you wish to do, Krishna then tells him, the best thing for you to do is surrender unto me. Surrender unto me, because by surrendering unto Krishna, and this is the key of the Bhagavad Gita, we're coming towards the end, I think, 8:30 I guess, is that the time that we have to? Yeah. So the key message at the end of the Gita, what Krishna is saying to Arjuna is, I shall deliver you from everything. Just surrender unto me. I remember when I first read that verse, it was before I went to the temple in 2001, because what happened was one evening, my parents were out and I was with my friends and we were just discussing something. I can't remember what we were discussing. And we were discussing that something about Lord Shiva, and someone said to us that Lord Shiva, he doesn't mind if you drink bhang and all this stuff. So I was like, oh really? And I was thinking, okay, I was like 18 years old, teenager, thinking, okay, cool, that means Hindu religion lets you do what you want, brilliant, I like being a Hindu, So we were discussing with my friends. So I said, I think my dad's got a Bhagavad Gita upstairs, let's check it out. So I went upstairs, I got the Gita out, we searched it up. And I just searched up like drink, then I searched up marijuana, I searched up all these like things, can we do this stuff? And then when I searched that up and I read the purport, Srila Prabhupada said something like, don't imitate a great personality. Lord Shiva drank poison, we cannot drink poison. I was like, whoa, this is heavy. And then I just thought, okay, let me just flick to any verse. This is in the 90s, so I just flicked to a verse, and the verse it came to was Sarva Dharman Parityaja, abandon all varieties of religion, surrender unto me. And I'm reading this thinking, this is too much for me. And I remember closing the book, putting it away, and I didn't see that for a few years after that. But it stayed with me. It stayed with me. And then when I started going to the temple in 2001, and then maybe even after a few years after that, when I read that verse again, it started to make sense. It started to make sense. Because what that verse is actually saying, that if we take Krishna to be the source of our inner world, if we take Krishna to be the person in our heart that we can have a loving, meaningful connection with, then all the happiness, all the peace, all the satisfaction, all the contentment that we may be chasing here, there and everywhere is all found in that one person. It's all found in that relationship with him. And that's what Krishna's key message is, that in our life, develop that deep inner connection with him. And that's how we will find the peace and happiness that we're looking for. So we'll stop there. But if anyone has any comments, questions, anything they would like to share, it would be very nice to hear your thoughts on this very auspicious day of Gita Jayanti. Any realizations you have that you'd like to share on this auspicious day, or your findings from the Gita, your thoughts, or your experiences of reading the Gita, hearing the Gita, experiencing the Gita. It would be really nice to hear from you.
Can I ask something?
Yes.
Yeah. So in 2021, I lost 3 of my close family because of the COVID within like span of 6-7 days.
Wow. Okay.
And yeah, I was like kind of anxiety and all those things, and I did read the Gita, but the question was never went out of my mind that we always say, it's the karma and all those things, and so how does I relate to 3, like my dad, my brother and brother's wife, how do I relate that all 3 went at the same time in 7 days time, and they didn't even know that who died first, they didn't know that they are in the hospital as well. So how do we say that, according to the Gita, what you think it can be? Because I did ask somebody this question before, and they said there must be some relationship between them in previous, birth, or there must be something.
Thank you, Jayesh Prabhu, for sharing. Did everyone hear that? So, Jayesh Prabhu on Zoom, he was saying that 3 of his relatives in 2021 passed away from COVID within a very short space of time. And how can we understand this? Is that right, Jayesh Prabhu? How can we understand?
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, how can we understand this? And you're speaking about karma. Is it karma? What kind of karma is it? How can it happen like this, so close together? I guess it's the same for you too, Tushar Prabhu, that both your parents passed away in such a short space of time. So, generally speaking, because we are in a world where we investigate everything, which is natural, we want answers. We want the reason why. And sometimes we're never going to get to the definite answer as to why exactly something has happened. So when situations occur, something I was told by one devotee, which has really stayed with me, especially when it comes to understanding grief and death, is rather than focusing on the karma, focus on what's my dharma. What could I do now that this situation has happened? And this way we can really try and make the situation as bearable as possible for those that are suffering, including ourselves. What's my dharma? And if you think about for Arjun also, he got onto the battlefield, his dilemma was there, and it wasn't like at that moment he wanted answers. Why is this happening? What Arjun said is, Krishna, Samuda Chetaha, I'm very confused. Shishyasteham Sadi Mamtam Prapanam, I'm taking you as my teacher. Tell me what I'm to do. What can I do now? What's my dharma now? So when we incur such a loss, we can really we can understand that, and especially when it's like you said, Jayesh Prabhu, like 3 relatives in the space of such a short time, it's so difficult to understand the intricacies of karma. It's so difficult to understand what may be going on karmically. But one thing we can understand is, what is my duty? What can I bring to the situation that can make things better for myself and for everyone around me? If we get into karma and we say, yes, as someone does something, as we have action, we have reaction. What happens when we start to think like that and talk like that? We lose our sense of compassion. We lose our sense of compassion. When something happens to us, we can maybe think of it as the karma, because it's happening to us personally. Maybe we can try and understand that, okay, maybe I did something and this has incurred some type of reaction, and maybe sometimes we even know. Isn't it? Like sometimes you get some sort of reaction and you even know where it's come from, because we know we've done something similar to someone previously, and we can just see the reaction manifesting in our life. So sometimes when it's ourselves, we can understand the concept of action and reaction and karma. But when something's happening to others, other family members, other relatives, other friends, other close connections, our most powerful contribution is how we can be a compassionate source of love and care for others. And being a compassionate source of love and care for others is our dharma. So I maybe not be answering your question in the way that you would have hoped, Jayesh Prabhu, and I apologize. But I think if we just try and change the, try and change the mood about our dharma, more than the intricate reason as to why something has happened, because we may never know. We may be able to guess, It may be like what we were saying earlier about Tushar Prabhu's parents, that because they left so close together, maybe that sometimes connections are very deep, connections are very strong, and because connections are very deep and very strong, they leave at the same time. They leave the world at the same time so that they can meet again in their next life together. But that may be what happened. That may not be what happened. It said it can happen, but we will never ever know the 100% answer. So the definitive thing to do is to always think how I can make the situation better in a more compassionate and caring way for others and ourselves. Is that okay, Jayesh Prabhu?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm totally, and thank you very much for explaining it. I totally agree with you. I was not expecting there is a specific answer. I know there is no such answer available, and I don't go into that loop of trying to find something. But my mom sometimes just find very difficult, and she's alone now. She just find very difficult to accept what she is on. But yeah, no, I totally agree. And this message you provided me, I will convey it to my mom as well, and we try to make her understand as well. But yeah, thank you very much for explaining.
Thank you, Jayesh Prabhu, and thank you for sharing. And yeah, please pass our condolences to your mom and the rest of the family also. Hare Krishna. Does anyone else have any comments, questions, any thoughts from the Bhagavad Gita? That anything that you've read or you've heard in the Gita that excites you, that interests you? It's a wonderful day to share about the Gita, being Gita Jayanti. Krishna.
You talked about surrendering to Krishna. So if someone's going through like a problem after a problem, and they've tried to surrender to Krishna and they're not getting any answers or any solutions to their problems, how can they deal with that situation?
So Krishna's not giving them an answer. And
yeah, I mean they're trying to do their bhakti and all that, but they're not getting any solutions to their problems. How should that be tackled?
Yeah, so we're doing our bhakti, but we're not getting the solutions to our problems. See, sometimes Krishna answers our prayers later than when we hope. And sometimes Krishna answers our prayers in a different way than what we hope. So the way Krishna reciprocates, even though we are sincere, it may not be in the exact way that we're hoping that he reciprocates with us. So what do we mean by delay? We may be praying for something, some problem to get fixed, and Krishna delays that fixing. And he delays it for many reasons. One of the reasons could just be because that process of us yearning, us longing, has given us a kind of, a dependency on him. And when we become dependent on him, then we're actually ecstatic inside as well as being upset on the outside. Like I remember going into my exams. And I'm not saying that that's at all as difficult as the situation you may be describing, but it's just something that's coming to my head. I remember feeling so nervous. Even it was about 20 years, 17, 18 years ago. I remember feeling so nervous, so desperate, so morose in one sense, because it's just like, oh my God, these final exams, if I don't pass, and it's just shaky, nervous, and then being in the exam and seeing pictures, seeing a picture of, can we put this person on mute please somehow? Yeah, you go. So, probably a baby. What was I saying? Yeah, so sometimes we may not be getting the answer to the problem because we're in such difficulty, but that point of dependence, that point of wanting Krishna, we're actually happy at the same time. So we may be feeling some happiness, but we may not be able to recognize that happiness because we want a particular solution. So So Queen Kunti is praying, let calamity come again and again. She's praying like this. Why? Because she wants that dependency on Krishna to be ever so deep. And that if that dependency on Krishna is ever so deep, then she's feeling an inner sort of happiness. It's not that she said, make sure that the Pandavas win, make sure Karna still gets saved because he was my eldest son, and it was just whatever happens, you can do it to me, but I just want to be dependent on you. So sometimes he can delay the answering of our prayers in the way we want, just so we are dependent on him and connecting with him more. And sometimes he just answers prayers in a different way. He just answers prayers in a different way. And he answers prayers in a different way because he, like we said earlier, Suridam Sarvabhutanam, he is our well-wisher and he knows what's best for us. We think we know what's best for us, but he knows what's best for us. So we think, I know what's best for me right now. I need to go on a holiday. I know what's best for me right now. I need to go on. That's what I think is best for me. And Krishna might not be letting that holiday happen for you right now because he knows what's best for you. Because he knows next week you need to renew your car insurance. And if you go on holiday and you forget and something happens to your car, and that's going to cause a big problem later. So I'm just giving you a mundane example. But the point is that he knows what's best for us. So the way to really deal with our problems is to do our bhakti and just trust Krishna. Just trust him. That whatever he's doing, he is reciprocating with me. And if I deepen that connection with him, and I'm doing my bhakti not for him to fix my problem, I'm doing my bhakti just to be with him. And I'll just trust him. I'll be with him and I'll trust him. It's not necessarily I'm doing this for the problem to get fixed. Because he may never fix that problem, knowing that you having that problem is deepening that connection with him more. And that's the goal. So just, what do they say? Try your best and let Krishna do the rest. So that's all we can do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Does anyone else want to share anything, ask anything before we finish?
Just a comment on that. Sometimes we feel that the problem is increasing, and we take it. I mean, personally, I take it in a positive way. To say the problem could have been even bigger than this. So
that's nice.
Just thank Krishna that the problem is not bigger than this.
Thank you. I like that. So even if the problem's getting bigger, the problem's getting worse, thank Krishna, it's not even worse. There's a nice saying. It's instead of telling you God how big is your problem, tell your problem how big God is. So we can tell our problem. You know my Krishna, he can fix you. Okay, so maybe that's a sign. They're telling me to zip. They're telling me to stop now. This is. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, thank you. Thank you, Kanchana Prabhu. So you've briefly given us the Gita summary, and I hope people have taken in what Kanchana Prabhu has said about mostly think about the inner peace. We think internally rather than externally. So our focus should be thinking about Krishna within, and so we can end the session with 3 Haribols again. We've done it initially. So if we can raise our hands. Hari Bol! Hari Bol! Hari Bol! Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Kanchana Prabhu ki jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yeah, you think?